coming to faith in Jesus. I was 25 playing for the Florida Panthers, and I didn't grow up in a Christian home, and I grew up in Boston. And so I think growing up, when you hear a lot of guest speakers that come into school and you hear the neighborhood kids, they tell you, what's going to bring you happiness and what's going to bring you, yeah, just what the point of life is. And I took a lot of that literally and to heart. And oftentimes the point of life was to be happy, and what brought you joy was to make money and to have fame, women, fancy things, an education, a good degree. And so by the grace of God, by the age of 25, I had checked a lot of those boxes off. I kind of grew up in a broken home and was able to play hockey, loved hockey, was good at hockey, and was able to do some neat things and got drafted. And so the fame started coming, kind of early. You guys have all gone through that. And then I went to Harvard and graduated in 2005 and turned pro with Pittsburgh. Started in the American League, and was a rookie and an all-star. And so now I had money. I grew up, we never had money growing up. So I got my first signing bonus, which was wild, and all the drinks were on me that night, for sure. But so I had the fame now and the money and the women, and some fancy cars as I started playing more, and but I didn't have true joy. So I always talk about a true lasting joy, and then what I call a fleeting joy, or which, Ryan mentioned is more just a happiness that we're always chasing a certain feeling. And so I didn't have a true joy. I remember after my first NHL game, sitting outside the old Mellon Arena, I had an assist. It was an unbelievable experience. But I remember sitting in my car after the game and watching everyone exit the parking lot, and thinking to myself, "Oh crap!" Like, my whole life, all I wanted to do was play in the NHL, and I finally made it. And again, it was fun, it was a blast, but there was something missing, and it wasn't that. Now being on the other side of the fence, so to speak, I realized that true joy only comes with knowing and being known and walking with the Lord. And it's just something that when you do it, you get it. When you don't, you probably look at me, a person would look at me like I'm nuts. But so that's a little bit of my story. I came to faith at 25 playing for the Florida Panthers. It actually started with a fight in Montreal. I blew out my shoulder in the fight, and I was out for the season. It was the biggest opportunity of my entire life. I was on my first one-way contract in the NHL, and fifth game of the season was over, and that was devastating to me because at the time my idol was hockey. My idol was me, but it was certainly hockey in my career, and God took that idol and just smashed it, and I'm so thankful He did. But I didn't understand it at the time, and it was a massive blessing looking back. But because hockey was my idol, and because it took the place of God, it never would bring me the joy or even the happiness that it ever could. After when I came to Christ and started walking with Him, then I continued to play, and oh man, was hockey even more fun at that point because it was in its right category. I had a proper perspective on it. It's the best job in the world, at that point, right? But it wasn't my God, it wasn't my idol anymore. And so for me, that if I could summarize what joy is, it's and Kurt, he did an amazing job of it in his email. True joy is waking up every day knowing that you're loved, knowing that you're forgiven, knowing that at some point, the buzzer's gonna sound, and we're gonna go home and be with our Creator and be with our Lord. And there's no ALS, and there's no cancer, and there's no sin, and there's no temptation, and all these different things that make life hard. That's true joy. And so no matter what the circumstance is, and circumstances are hard in this life that we live, it's a beautiful world that we live in, but it's broken. It's full of sin, and I'm part of the problem. I'm full of sin, and so but to know that I'm forgiven by a holy and just God, and not only forgiven but loved,
Mm.
that's where the true joy comes from, so that we can, whatever the circumstance, whatever God allows us to go through, just like Kurt said this morning, I know at some point when the Lord calls me home, then I'll be with him. Until then, I got work to do on this ALS thing. I mean, that summarizes it right there. And so things are hard for him, but he has that joy knowing that he's been saved from his sin and that he will be with the Lord forever. And so that's a joy that the NHL can't replace. That women, that money, fancy cars, whatever it may be, it just can't replace that. And so by the grace of God, at 25, I'm 41 now. Um, After hearing the gospel, which is just the good news about what Jesus has accomplished for us, it changed my life. It rocked me, and that's the day that true joy started to enter into my life.